AskReddit by Leela Venora. How did the kid from your school die? There was a boy from a family of alcoholics. Parents divorced. He lived with a mom who was a very heavy drinker and a stepdad. Stepdad had a son who spent quite some time in mental facilities and rehab because he fucked up his brain with drug use. The son eventually came home to live with his father and my classmate. One time the classmate accidentally saw his stepbrother sniffing glue from a bag. Stepbrother got mad, poured kerosene on him and lit him up. When his mother saw her child was burning, she jumped out the window and ran away while his younger siblings were trying to put out the fire. Unfortunately, once they managed to, he was already dead. Please tell me he was charged murder or manslaughter. End-stage renal disease. She was doing good for a couple of years and waiting for a transplant while getting regular dialysis, but ended up passing away in 11th grade. That's sad. Plug for organ donation awareness. April is National Donate Life Month. Every day, 17 people die in the US waiting for an organ transplant. If you aren't an organ donor already, sign up at https://www.organdonor.gov/sign-up. In middle school, my neighbor accidentally shot and killed his best friend while hunting. Years later he was beheaded by the Taliban along with 2 Englishmen. Unbearably sad. Certainly an unexpected turn there that's extremely tragic. Fell off a jet ski and then got hit by it when the driver turned around. Drowned. Jet skis are insanely dangerous. If you read up on jet ski deaths, they are awful much more gruesome too. Wrestling team bully with anger management issues punched an elderly man in a road rage incident and the elderly man shot him dead and was acquitted as it was deemed self-defense. Polio. After the summer holiday in 1955, she just never returned to school. My mom used to lie in bed anxiously and make sure she could still wiggle her toes. That must have been so traumatizing for everyone. He was playing football and randomly passed out. Never woke up again. Something similar happened to a coworker of mine. He was playing basketball and sat out a game complaining of a headache. Then he passed out and never woke again. He was barely 30. It was devastating. His girlfriend broke up with him. He didn't take it well. One afternoon after school, he walked down to the primary school near our high school and shot himself in the head right outside the entrance. Didn't know him well, but I don't think he had all that many friends. He always had sad eyes but was very nice whenever someone spoke to him. Same thing happened at my high school in the 80s. The principal ran out and covered the body with his own suit coat. An electrician screwed up rewiring her family's house so a live wire was touching a metal pipe connected to the bath. Her mum was wearing rubber work boots when she filled the bath so wasn't electrocuted, but she must have accidentally brushed against the tap or gone to add some more water while submerged and was killed instantly. We lived in a very small town where everyone knew each other, so it really rocked our community. She was in the grade above me, so would have been around 10-11. This is horrifying. New fear unlocked. Group of kids got skunk drunk and decided to take a ride down a notoriously winding road. One guy was standing in the back of the truck and fell out as they rounded one of the hairpin curves. Didn't make it. Kid in my school was bet $100 he couldn't chug a 26er of whiskey. Won the bet, died an hour later. Quite a few kids I went to school with died, but one still sticks out to me the most. The older brother of a girl in my class. He was a couple years older, so we went to the same school. I live in the middle of nowhere and we have heavy snow for most of the year, so snowmobiling is a really popular recreational activity. Apparently this guy had crashed into a tree and a branch went right through his head and killed him instantly. Like 5 of them died of drunk driving accidents. 3 of them at one time. Little redneck school in the middle of nowhere. Apparently people seem to think drinking and driving is the only way to have fun. Getting a DUI is like a rite of passage in some of those towns, I swear. She was in the 5th grade and needed a blood transfusion. Her parents were Jehovah's Witnesses and refused the procedure. I don't know what condition she had, but she died due to lack of medical care. Try making sense of that at 11 years old. Massachusetts, 1995. My older sister had a diaphragmatic hernia when she was born. She's fine. While fighting for her life in the hospital, doing everything possible, my dad watched a Jehovah's Witness family let their child die. The church even had someone there to supervise them to make sure they didn't allow their child to receive treatment. His brother shot him in the head while he slept. Tried to kill his parents too. Guy from my high school class was with his grandma for a bit during summer break. His uncle showed up and shot them both and then committed suicide. Grade school. Rainy day. Bell rang and little girl panicked about being late, ran out in front of a school bus. I saw it happen. I would literally be unable to sleep for months. This one guy at my high school tried asking out this girl. The girl's brother and a group of his friends jumped him, did some unspeakable things to him, and the entire school found out about it. He was missing from school for months because he was in the hospital. Eventually he came back to school, but people stared at him. It must have ate away at him because during the summer, his family went on a cruise and the guy jumped off the cruise ship and drowned. As a parent at this point, you fucking move. Nothing could make me keep my child in that community after that. Grade 5. He was playing with his little brother when they found their dad's duty pistol. Little brother shot him right between the eyes. Can't imagine how the little brother feels. Was about 50 years ago. Something similar happened in my hometown. Two young twins aged 4 found their dad's gun. One shot the other and was killed. From what I heard, the kid was shot in the chest, and he watched as his brother cried and cried before he died. Can't imagine the trauma he will have for the rest of his life. Deleted. 2 different people from college I know both died from testicular cancer in their very early 20s. Very scary shit. Complications from a tonsillectomy. From what I understand, his stitches came undone and he drowned in his own blood while sleeping. Migrating to decentralized services. Just didn't wake up one morning. His mum found him dead in his bed. Turned out he had some condition they had no way of knowing about. Can't imagine anything worse as a parent. Something similar, he was just eating his dinner and died. In my country, we have a big final exam that directly decides what course we get into. Every student your age in the country takes the exact same exam at the exact same time. Everyone gets their results at the exact same time too. He just finished this exam, and his parents had to open up the results and see if he would have gotten his course 2 months after he died. I don't know if he did, but still, this day should be a celebration, but instead the government hands them a piece of paper that tells them how bright his future was. Edit. I woke up to loads of speculation in the comments, but only one person got it right. I'm Irish. It's called the Leaving Cert. Suicide in the forest behind my garden. Hung himself in his closet with a belt in 9th grade. He'd been in my earth science class, and then just wasn't there anymore. Poor guy had been bullied for years due to his Eastern European accent, and being underweight. Kids are fucking cruel and the rest of us never stepped in to stop it. We're all accountable. R.I.P. Nikki. He was kidnapped in 1989 and his body wasn't found until 2016. His mother went on to start the Crimes Against Children Registration Act in 1993. Jacob Wetterling. His case haunts me. 3 kids died during my last year of high school. First was from a car accident. Second was from hypothermia and the third died in her sleep. I never got the explanation for it. Safe to say we were all in a weird headspace that year. 3 people died shortly after graduation in a head-on collision with a semi-truck. Edit. Since I've had a couple people ask, this was in northern CA. Sacramento area. Edit again. Upvote Generix's response to this comment to visibility. That chain has the whole story complete with a fun guessing game. Was this the one in Auburn? Autoerotic asphyxiation. Before the term was common knowledge. What they told us at the time was that he had hung himself. 1980. Peace out, Randy. Sorry your brother had to find you that way. Fun fact. I got suspended for 3 days for an unexcused absence attending his funeral. Fuck your school. Self-inflicted gunshot wound. In the cafeteria during lunch. He and 2 friends were fucking around with a shotgun. It was loaded and killed him. One of the friends, the one holding the gun I believe, committed suicide a month or so later from the guilt. This happened with the popular senior at our high school. It was a house party and pretty much every kid there was drunk. He talked his girlfriend into aiming the shotgun at him and pulling the trigger, promising it was unloaded. His face and chest took the blast. She was fucked up for a very, very long time. His family went out of their way to make sure that her rehabilitation and anything else she needed for help was covered. Deleted. That is some Final Destination shit right there. Jumped off the 7th floor parking garage. Kid had a head crack. Nothing life-threatening by itself, but swam in our dirty lake and got a brain infection. A girl got squished in the carousel of progress at Disneyland. It was a huge story at the time. It's still a huge story mo. I'm in my early 20s and even I've heard of it. Honestly keeps me up at night sometimes. Can't imagine how it was to have known her. Back in school there were 2 students that died. 1. Drove his father's old car into a river. It was a rainy night and the tires were worn out. BTW. He was too young to drive a car. He had no license. 2. Suicide. None of us knew nor suspected, but he had a history of depression and a weird family dynamic. Then his GF broke up with him and that was the end for him. Then in college there was a guy who died. His father lost his job, didn't have the guts to tell his family that he lost his job and got his family in debt without their knowledge. After that, his father still didn't have the guts to tell his family what was going on, so he decided to commit suicide instead and he decided to take his favorite kid, my classmate, with him. It makes no sense to anyone, but the father literally killed his son because he didn't want to die alone when he committed suicide. A football player's heartbeat was slowing and there wasn't a defibrillator nearby. Now several years later there's a defibrillator by the locker rooms and a plaque to remember him above it. In high school, girl who sat next to me for more than 2 years. We were seated in alphabetical order, went to party one weekend senior year, got drunk and decided to walk home in the dark on nearby railroad tracks. Run over by a train and died. Her seat sat empty for the remainder of senior year. Almost 40 years later and I still remember her name and exactly what she looked like before the incident. Geez, that empty seat. Like a glaring reminder every single day. I'm so sorry for teenage you going through that. Him and his dad fell through the ice in their ice vehicle and they drowned. Older student broke into the chemistry lab, joking around with his friends, sniffed some chemical that I can't remember. I was at my break and just heard the sirens. Damn, do any chemists here know what could kill you that instantaneously? Self-inflicted shotgun to the head. She was mercilessly bullied throughout school. Junior year of high school and it was too much. The school and diocese consistently turned blind eye to bullying and other disciplinary complaints towards children from priority families. The priest had the audacity at the funeral to talk about the selfishness and sin of suicide. And nobody got up to punch the motherfucker? There was the one kid in elementary school who was riding his bike and got hit by a car. The school's infinite wisdom was to reiterate the dangers of not wearing your helmet while riding a bike. Fantastic memorial. There was the guy who drunk drove into a pole to avoid a squirrel, as the surviving passengers put it. But the hardest one to think about was my kindergarten classmate. She survived, but her baby sister was killed in the Oklahoma City bombing. Someone died riding their bike to my old high school. The school flipped out and banned everyone from riding bikes, skateboards, or scooters to school. Literally confiscated my friend's skateboard out of his locker. Hung himself. I was really good friends with him since maybe 5th grade, but I knew him since kindergarten. We weren't talking that much for a bunch of 9th grade, but we really started talking again, and then he died. I was doing multiple school projects with him at the time, but I ended up not having to do them. I was told by my crying mom, and my dad was pretty much crying because of me having to deal with that. There were no clues, or did he ever say anything about his thoughts. Before that year started though, his mom told my mom that he's been having bad anxiety and maybe to not talk to him. He was happy to talk anyways. It was a big story, and there were people from schools away who knew about it, and the classes I was with him in were pretty much pure sadness and crying. The English class was the worst though. I was crying with my head down on my desk, but the co-teacher in that class comforted me. I worked with her until I graduated last year. God bless her soul. Article about him that I feel is worth looking at, I guess. https://people.com/family-teen-died-suicide-dedicate-awareness/ deleted. Suicide. Sadly, we had 2 die from suicide and 1 in a drunk driving accident. All within 3 months of each other. That was awful. A girl in my middle school died after giving birth. Really sad. No middle schooler should be giving birth. Hit by a drunk driver while in a car with 4 people. W's ejected 30 feet from the backseat. Man's got up, walked to a burning car, actually ripped the door off, pulled out all 3 other people and dragged them 10-15 feet away, then collapsed. Succumbed to his injuries at the hospital later. Apparently had a broken femur, collarbone, wrist and arm, amongst other things. The other 3 only had minor injuries, and the car exploded like 3-5 minutes after he pulled them out. Dude was actually a hero. No one saw any of this BTW. The drunk driver called the cops when he woke up. The cameras in front of the school caught most of it. Got his head blown apart with a shotgun by another kid from my school. I don't think anyone I went to school with is dead yet, but I know one of my old classmates is on death row in Florida, so that's gotta count for something. Damn, what did they do, if you don't mind me asking? In childbirth she was just 14. Oh, this is really hard to read. One of my 14-year-old sped students was raped and last fall, and she will deliver the baby at the end of the month. Toxic shock. Car accident, leukemia, motorcycle accident. Toxic shock. 260Z wrapped around a tree 20 feet up in the air after running off an embankment going over 100 miles per hour. Front and rear bumpers on passenger side were touching. They used tow trucks to get the car to slide down the tree. Needless to say, closed casket funeral. In HS, my friend crashed into a gas tank on the highway. Shit exploded and burned a whole section of an overpass. They only identified her by her teeth. Her brother posted on Facebook describing his mom's screams, and although I didn't hear them, I still think about that post. Was about 15 years ago. In grade 11, a kid in my class died in a motorcycle accident. His cycle slipped, and he got hit head on by a semi in front of his parents. He wasn't popular though, so when it happened, it was just a quick announcement at the start of class, and then life moved on. Several weeks later, a popular kid was drinking and driving and was in a near-fatal accident of his causing. That was a week-long tragedy in the school, even the fucking teachers joined in. Fuck CHSS. Near fatal? So the guy who caused the accident didn't even die and the school still held memorial type services? One guy died on his birthday. He was getting chased by his friends for birthday beats. Nothing really bad, just little roughhousing. So they are running around in the school all playfully and he just collapsed and turned blue pretty quick. He apparently had some heart issue that he was unaware and his heart just stopped. I believe he was like 15 or something. Super sad. Multiple kids at my school died. One committed suicide in his car. One died of cancer. One jumped in front of a train after an argument with his parents. One died of kidney disease and the last one I can remember died in a car accident. Super sad.